Right, we are broadcasting and recording. Welcome, Scott. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm very good, Adam, all things considering. Life's quite amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thanks for agreeing to join in with this, my little webinar project. It'd be good. I think it'd be good. It'd be nice to catch up with you.
It's been a few years since we've physically met.
It has.
Well, good chance to chat.
Yeah, but time just flies by. And then what we'll do is we'll redistribute this probably via YouTube. And if I can work out how to get some audio editing software working, we might podcast it as well. So how are you anyway?
Yeah, all things considering, amazingly well, staying positive, happy and healthy.
Yes. And the first thing I wanted to kick off with, really, and we'll get into your story definitely, but we're in, for anyone watching this in the future, we're in May 2020, and we're currently in lockdown due to coronavirus. Now, unlike most people, you've got quite an unusual approach to lockdown. Maybe tell us a bit about what you're up to and where you are now, Scott.
Well, you say it's unusual. I think it's very usual, and everyone else is unusual.
Exactly.
But basically, I am self-isolating at the office. So one of the main parts of the business is managing holiday homes, and as we record this during lockdown, holiday homes are shut, legally all shut down. So in the weeks coming up to the actual physical lockdown, we were kind of faced with perhaps 90% of our income disappearing overnight. So my outlook for that was, well, yes, we've been forced to go home, not to work in our business if we can't travel, and we didn't know whether police were stopping or whether you'd be allowed. So my thing was literally being in the office working on the business non-stop. So I am literally in the office living here. So
yeah.
That might seem strange, but we have a pretty cool HQ here for the business. So it's not like I'm sitting in an office with a printer and a laptop. It's pretty massive. We have our own massive gym here. So big gym, probably 5 times the size of an average living room lounge.
Wow.
The kitchen's all fully functional. So taking inspirations from Silicon Valley and the way they kit out their offices over there,
Yes.
we were lucky enough to implement some of that here. So we've got massive outside space. We're in the middle of the country. There's no one else about. I've got the recording studio here.
Wow.
Everything we need: the gym, the kitchen, shower. I've got our own apartment that's kitted out quite nice. So this is 10 times the size of my apartment in Glasgow. So it's ideal. And no distractions from Netflix, from sitting about. And I didn't have the luxury of not working. So government guidelines or not, I need to save the business. We've got 14 staff members. They're all on 100% wages. They're all fine. So it's my duty as a CEO to make this business survive this.
Keep the wheels turning. Well, you've made the office sound fantastic. It doesn't sound like half the sacrifice I thought it was going to be. But just to reassure us all, you have got a bed there that you can sleep on.
I've got an apartment. Yeah.
Oh, have you? Oh, right. There you go.
It's an old industrial style building, and there was spare rooms aplenty, so we just converted it into an apartment. So pretty comfy.
Yeah, no, cool, very cool. So actually taking you back to when we first met, or rather, I don't think we met on that occasion. We met soon after, but the first time I heard of you was on stage at an event in Basingstoke. I think they'd converted a sports hall, so I was sitting on a tennis court whilst listening to you, and I think you'd got yourself to the point where you were on that stage, and you told your story. So maybe just tell us a little bit about how that came about, and tell us that story that you told that day, if you would.
Okay. Well, thinking back, you're putting me in a platform to make me sound massively important, being on stage many years ago, and I think there was probably 700 people in that room. But the story that came about was, it was part of an entrepreneur's network that we were both part of, and I think it was probably 4 months previous, and the leader of that organization was on stage. He was very big personality, delivering content all day, and people seemed to love the guy back then. And I remember thinking, and when was that? It was
Must have been
definitely
2012, 2013, one of those times.
years ago or something. But at that time, and again, there was a 4-month gap between me seeing the guy the first time and doing it. I'm thinking, well, this guy's on stage with hundreds of people delivering content and everybody standing up and giving him applause. And at that point, I was like, I've never spoken to more than 20 people at a networking event. And when you start your first networking event and you have your 60-second pitch to do, you sit and you worry and you shake. You think, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to be stupid, I'm scared. People are going to say I'm a fraud. So all those things that amateur business people, amateur networkers feel when they're first public speaking. And I thought I'll set myself a challenge, and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to be on stage at the next event and I'm going to make it happen.
Yes.
I don't have a thing here, but the business, coincidentally now, the first core value of our business is #make it happen. But this is one of the first times it was born. So I, on the train back from Basingstoke, emailed over the guy's PA and said, I want to speak at the next stage. And they said, well, I don't think he's going to go for it because who are you? We only get guest speakers, and he's had some amazing guest speakers. So I put my case across and said, listen, make it happen. I want to tell my story and I want to engineer this. And thankfully they gave me a chance. So yes, there was other guest speakers, professional business people, and I managed to get up on stage and make it happen. So they gave me a 20-minute slot and I got to speak, and that was, I suppose, the first big speaking thing. But essentially the principle was I wanted to do something that terrified me and do it. And if I failed, I still did it. And thankfully it went reasonably well. I didn't cry. I get very
it went great. It was very inspiring, Scott. There's no doubt about that. It was a great presentation. And just for the context of anyone else that hears this, the people that you're talking about that had been on that stage were the likes of Sir Chris Hoy, one of the greatest ever British Olympians, probably the greatest. I don't know if it's him or Redgrave. Steve Wozniak, the founder of Apple. So you're in good company, Scott. And it's a fairly lofty goal to set yourself. I want to speak in a room like these people do. So, but on stage that day, you told your story of sort of where you'd started from and where you were. And I know 7 years has elapsed since then. Maybe give us as much or as little as that story as you're happy to share.
Well, very quickly and condensed, the topic of the talk was my 4 impossible goals, or the magic of impossible goals.
Yes.
Essentially condensed. I set myself definitely impossible goals when I was 15. Life was different to being on stage speaking and doing all these things and everything. But I won't share the 4 impossible goals, but life was very different. I came from, I suppose, what would be poverty in this country. Again, not poverty compared to Africa or other people with bad situations, but this country, I was left to bring myself up, alcoholic mother from the age of 12. So life was just about me surviving every day and having no qualifications, nearly getting kicked out of school, getting into trouble with the police. And I saw a thing on an American TV program. Now, back in those days, we had 50 pence meters for the TV. So
yes.
A lot of people won't know them, but we had power cards to put power in. So in the lucky occasions, we had power cards. And then, what's that noise?
So it's one of the other Scots joining us.
It's my computer.
Yeah.
So in the lucky occasions we had electricity and money in the TV, I saw an American motivational speaker, and he said something along the lines of, to change your life, you need to change your goals. And I noticed that at that point in time, all my goals were about survival. So staying away from drugs and crime, not getting beat up, finding food. And, it was not getting arrested. So if you are aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, survival is at the bottom. There wasn't any self-actualization. So simply, I changed my goals from not getting beat up, having something to eat, not getting arrested and staying away from drugs, to 4 other goals, which probably did take me 15 to 20 years to achieve. So
yes.
That was the purpose of that talk. And that guy, Nigel, was good enough to give me the opportunity to elevate my let's say, status, but my experience on stage.
Yeah, well, I think it serves both of those purposes, doesn't it? You know, it certainly gets you into the mind of 700 other people. The interesting thing about setting big goals and speaking in front of 700 people when you've only spoken in front of 10 or 20 before is a massive goal, because I've had that opportunity myself, and it's pretty daunting when you get up on that stage. But you know what? The second time you do it, it's never quite as daunting. It's still daunting. The third time you do it, and before you know it, it becomes second nature. So there's certainly a lot to be learned there about, and I know we've chatted about it before, but pushing yourself outside of where you feel comfortable going, so that becomes the new norm. Cool. Okay. So your businesses and interests include Homesure Portfolio Management. It includes Pillow, and of course you've got one of your great passions, I know, is Krav Maga. So tell us a little bit about those three things, if you would, Scott. Homesure, Krav, and Pillow.
Yeah, so I suppose Homesure was my first startup that back in 2005. Think a high street letting agency and estate agency, and that's essentially what we did for 10 years, for a decade. And that was my training business of learning, having zero experience in business, making many mistakes, wasting so much money on advertising along the years, bad hiring decisions, obviously before I met you and your amazing recruitment company, Adam.
Well done, thank you. Money's in the post.
But again, you just make so many mistakes in business, and you realise that your dreams, you don't know what you don't know. And I suppose it was like a university degree in entrepreneurship. So started in 2005, and I suppose a decade later we come up with the idea of Pillow. And again, it's still property management, but we do holiday homes and serviced apartments. So various reasons why the business went in that direction as well. So luckily we have the two departments, and I said at the start, if we just did serviced accommodation and holiday home management, then everything's shut down and a lot of people were in massive, it's like the hospitality, it's like pubs, everything's closed, so zero income streams. Luckily I had always diversified the business, kept the letting side, because we've got 500 properties we manage from normal buy to let, and those guys are tenants, and apart from the ones that are having financial difficulty, losing their jobs, etc., then the business has always been structured that the recurring income from the buy to let portfolio that we manage for other people pay the bills. So we're in a fortunate position that all the staff, nobody's been let go, no one's taken wage drops. We have a lot of some cash flow from that existing recurring income. So although that's a small part of the business, we've always structured it to make sure that we're always cash flow positive if we don't get income from the serious income generating parts of the business. So yes, that's the two kind of main things there. Lots of other cool ideas. If I was recording this in my office next door, you'd see the whiteboards with all these other ideas that self-isolating in your office forces you to be creative. So
yes, yeah.
In some ways, this has affected our business and definitely easily lost us at least £500,000 worth of income just during the lockdown period so far. And again, there'll be a run-on effect of that. But hopefully the bigger picture there is that the creativity that this has generated for me means that you're scaling up quickly in other businesses. The last thing you mentioned is my hobby, passion turned business, and I'll share one of the impossible goals. One of the impossible goals was I didn't want to get bullied anymore. I wanted to be a self-defense expert. So over a decade, 2 decades, I studied different martial arts, being a black belt in Taekwondo, did a bit of kickboxing, a bit of Muay Thai, but found Krav Maga, which is a Israeli self-defense system. So Krav Maga, it's Hebrew for contact combat, hand-to-hand combat. Basically a reality-based fighting system. So anybody's interested, Krav Maga, Krav space Maga, and it's for me my favourite Krav Maga self-defense system. I just love it. So went over, travelled the world, did my qualifications, various different teaching. So civilian instructor, military instructor, female-only instructor, and yeah, just trained constantly, made a business out of it, and yeah, took some classes and had a self-defense school. So my aim being, years ago, was 15, go from being bullied and scared to leave the house to being in a position where we can hopefully interact with young kids at my age that were scared and give them a little bit of confidence. It's not about fighting, it's not about being a bully, it's about just the opposite of that is Krav Maga. So it's empowered people, and we've probably taught thousands of different women to be able to defend themselves, stop themselves being in positions of domestic violence, be able to protect themselves if the worst had to happen. So again, reality-based self-defense is ideal for women. It's not about doing fancy kicks or uppercuts. It's basic self. What happens if somebody walks into a car park and gets attacked by 3 guys that try to pull them into a car? We're not there to fight and spar and do rounds and take people to the deck and get them into locks. We're simply doing 1 strike per person. So that might be finger strikes, hits to the groin, hits to the windpipe, stamp the knee to break a leg. It's simply about survival. And again, we don't teach that to teach people how to abuse that, because it sounds pretty violent. But in an alleyway, life or death situation, legally, self-defense is a term in the legal community of doing the minimum you can to escape, and then obviously staying safe, running away. And
Yeah. No, I think super important stuff. And didn't you go on a Krav Maga, like a military training camp some time ago? Was it a week's retreat, or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, so 10 days. So it was
wow.
There's various methods of Krav Maga. Civilian, where you teach people, and obviously, to give you an example of the 4 different kinds. Civilian Krav Maga, we need to abide by the laws of the country. So in civilian Krav Maga, if someone attacks me with a knife, we would defend and run away, shout for help. Or if we, worst case scenario, we would defend, disarm the knife, take the knife and run away, shout for help. If we did anything above that, once we take the knife and retaliated, we would go to jail for it. So civilian Krav Maga, run away, get to safety. The next one would be law enforcement. So in that situation, somebody attacks you with a knife, you can't run away with a police officer because you've got a duty to the society to not let them go and kill other people. So in that instance, you would take the knife off the person and then detain the person, handcuffs, improvised handcuffs, for VIP protection. So we're thinking about looking after government ministers, VIPs. Your job as a Krav Maga self-defense VIP person is to just get in the middle. Doesn't matter if you get stabbed, you have to protect your VIP, and then you have to take them to safety. So different finishing methods. Finally, the military one, if you're in the military, you're a SWAT guy in a building, somebody stabs you, you would take the knife and stab them back. So military Krav Maga is all about, different finishing methods, but you have an enemy and you need to finish differently. So it's the same methods, but different end results based on the person you're teaching. So we went over to Israel, and it was a mixture of the military instructors course and, if you hear of the US Navy SEALs Hell Week. So lots of street deprivation. I think there was 35 people that started and 5 that finished. So essentially you just stood in a line, and for the first 3 days they just broke everyone. You get no sleep, you didn't finish, you didn't stop working literally until the instructor had broken 30 of us, or
my God,
it was 25 of us. So it was just all about mental toughness. Physical played an impact, obviously. It was a big thing, but essentially there was a lot of physically, massively much better physically conditioned men and me. There was guys in the Philippine SWAT that was massive, that built like the rock. But yeah, it was all about mental toughness. So that was a defining moment in my life that, can he change me as a person forever?
Yeah. How far into that did you get, dare I ask?
Finished. I was one of the 5.
One of the 5. Wow. Gosh, that's incredible. A whole other webinar in that probably, because I always think, and you know me, I like a beer on a Friday night, but over recent years I've started doing a little bit better physical welfare, including some running. And the thing I've learned about running is that it's so much more about what goes on here than it is about all of the running itself.
Sure.
You can talk yourself out of a run really easily. Keeping going is about saying, well, it's just the next step that I need to worry about, rather than how many more miles I've got to go. So mental toughness, I'm sure that certainly taught you a lot. Back to the business side then. So I know, as part of, I think, Pillow and your involvement in, I don't know if it's Scottish enterprise or British enterprise, but you had an opportunity to travel across the pond to go to America a couple of times, and spent a bit of time in Silicon Valley, or maybe other big cities. So tell us about that, and what you learned from that, what you learned from potential investors, how that came about, just that story really, Scott.
Okay. Well, in the last 12 months, I think I've been to America 4 times. And if MD follows me on social media, they say, Scott's always overseas, he's always doing something cool. But the reality is I had never been to America 12, maybe 13 months ago. So I'd never been to America. And the story came about, I saw an MIT, so the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT professor, Bill, and he was doing a scale-up conference. And he gave a presentation, and he said some words at the end, and I spoke to him afterwards, and he said, Scott, the best bit of business advice I would give any Scottish person, but it's the same as the UK. So the best bit of business advice I would give anyone from the UK is to go and experience other cultures and way people do business in other cultures. And he said, namely America, because America is massively different. The way people look at business there is massively different. So the best bit of advice for MD in business here in the UK would be go and experience America. So I thought, well, he's an MIT professor. I'm not. I'm going to take his advice. So and I thought, how do I get to America? I mean, I've never been. I don't know anyone there. How do I go and experience it? So first time was I won a trip to Silicon Valley in a pitching competition. So relating it back to the initial story, we applied for various stages of this pitching competition, and November a year and a bit ago, we won the competition in the Startup Summit to go to pitch to venture capitalists over in Silicon Valley. And that was just a pitching competition. Now, had I not started and bowled my way onto stage the last time, I wouldn't have been able to blag my way onto stage this time.
There you go.
So I won the first one there, along with £100,000 worth of TV advertising. So when people see the TV advert, they'll ask, wow, that's amazing. But again, we won it in a competition.
Yeah.
We will see a theme here of the whole make it happen core value. Isn't necessarily amazing business acumen. It's just I blag a lot of stuff. So
well, I think you're being modest. I think making it happen is the key, isn't it? And being able to, someone else might call it hustle your way through to get the result that you want. Making it happen is, from my eye, a more accurate description, but you are being modest. So you've made it happen by blagging it or other methods. Yeah. So they put you on the plane.
Yeah. So we were over there, and we won it, and it was an organised tour with other people from the UK get over to pitch their business to venture capitalists. So a pretty cool experience. Again, first time in America, and you're trying to be pretty cool about it and not think, oh my God, I'm in America. I'm paid by $1. How cool is that? So I was pretty cool about it with all these other business people. And we just literally jotted about San Francisco and Silicon Valley. And there was a guy that sold his business to Facebook. So he literally moved to America and worked for Facebook. So Amesh gave us a tour of the campus. So we're literally sitting in Facebook's campus, the main actual Facebook at Hacker Way, which was pretty cool. We were just literally sitting with a meeting with a billionaire, a big, massive billionaire in America, and in his office. Just an office in Silicon Valley, Palo Alto. And I thank you, gave us some advice, which was great advice. But as we were walking out the room, he says, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you. This is Apple's old boardroom. This is where this is where Steve Jobs sat and took the board meetings for Apple before they moved to the campus, and then walked away as if it was nothing.
Yeah.
So of course, everybody walked out, but I was like, okay, walking slowly, run back, took a selfie
In Steve Jobs'
I'm in Steve
boardroom.
Jobs' ex-office. So
Yeah.
yeah, things like that just started happening. So that was amazing times there. We got to, we were in an office in solicitors overlooking kind of Alcatraz and the Bay. And one of the other guys asked, so you are solicitors, what's the biggest deal you've ever done? And you're literally sitting in the office where the executives from Microsoft signed to buy LinkedIn.
Gosh, wow.
So I'm literally in Ayrshire. I'm in the middle of nowhere, not even in a city. And then the next thing you know, you're sitting in Steve Jobs' ex-boardroom, and where the deals with LinkedIn and Microsoft are going down, and just literally having beers with billionaires. So that was the first trip. One thing I did realise about the American culture was there's a few things that they do differently, and the one is thinking big. And we get taught, because we had to go to briefings, you're going to be speaking to venture capitalists, you're going to be with billionaires, you're going to be with entrepreneurs and startup people that have done amazing things. So you need to think big. So I went over to pitch to these American VCs, venture capitalists. They're the guys that give you out the tens of millions.
Yeah.
And I did my big confident pitch, and I'm like, Pillow is going to be the biggest service accommodation management company in the UK. In 12 months, we're going to be the market leaders. And the guy just said, so fucking what? That's a bad American accent. I was like, well, we're going to be the UK market leaders. This is massive thinking. I thought this was big thinking. And the guy just said, who gives a shit about the UK? Why would you just want to be the market leaders in the UK? Because it's such a small country, and we believe it's a big country because it's our home. But Americans think, well, it's part of Europe, and there's maybe 10 other, UKs and Spain and Italy and Germany, so they don't see it as a big deal. And actually, we changed our mission statement purpose from being the UK's best property management company to being the world's best. So you think your dreams are big until you go to America. So the second time I went back to Silicon Valley, I went in with world domination pitches, and Americans loved it. So another good thing about Americans is they're not afraid of failure. So this is hard maybe for us to accept, but if you fail here, then people will be saying, oh, did you see that business failed? And you were part of the entrepreneurial circle. If one of the businesses went down, people would be chatting, and they failed, or their business went under. And, you'll hear a lot of that chat when we come out of Corona, because lockdown, because a lot of businesses weren't going to survive post-Corona. They just were never going to make through this year, and this will be a nice excuse for it to go badly wrong for them, unfortunately. And again, there'll be businesses that would have made it through this year, and Corona has taken that opportunity away from them. So when that happens, people here see it as a negative. And if you had got approached from someone that...
Hello, good people. It's Adam. I'm just doing the interlude here. This is the part where we had some technical difficulties on the broadcast, and I had to restart the webinar, which picked up Scott with a slightly different background. He'd moved out of his lovely sort of sofa area into the main hub of the working office, and we picked up the conversation pretty quickly. I think it ran very smoothly from there, but I just wanted to explain what was going on in case you're wondering why the background's changed. So yeah, I'll jump straight back in, and I'll see you back in Pillow HQ with Scott Weir.
Cool. So we're back in the room, Scott, after that little technical difficulty.
Censorship in the media, Adam, you're shutting all these platforms down.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. I think actually, and we'll pick up where we left off in a minute, but broadband has been proven, and technology has been proven to be more important than ever over the last 6 to 8 weeks. Broadband hasn't been recategorized as a essential utility yet, has it? But I think post this, it may well be, because we need it more than ever. And the UK are so far behind certainly the rest of Europe, and probably the rest of the world in terms of super speed, super fast broadband.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway, I'll stop rabbiting on. So you were telling me about you were in America. You'd gone back with plans for world domination pitches, and you were talking about, this was the point, the British fear of failure versus the American embrace of it, I think.
Yeah, so in the US, that's totally different. So as me going over as a first-time founder I've got an idea for a startup, you would be seen as less investable had you not failed before. So those guys in America literally don't see failure the way we see it. So again, here it would be seen as a stigma, it would be negative. But in America, they ask you, well, have you had a failed startup before? And they're much statistically more likely to invest in your new startup if you've had a failed one before. And I asked them, why would that be? And he says, well, why would I invest in your business for you to make the mistakes? I want to invest in the business that you've made the mistakes in with someone else's money or your own money. So failure there isn't a big thing. I think they call it failing forward. It's just a different mindset. So yeah, hopefully that will filter over here in years to come. And a story of that, and a true story of a business competition, and it was Scotland, the UK's largest pitching competition, and the people that run it are amazing. And I got to the finals, and I was on stage on November pitching at the finals, and we didn't win. And the judging panel came back and said, you're too ambitious. So your plans are too ambitious. So whereas again, the American perspective, if I was pitching in America, I would have blown that out the water, would have won it hands down for various reasons. But in the UK, the judging panel said you're too ambitious. Yeah. So it runs every 6 months. So again, I applied this time round, and I knew the owner, and I said, listen, can you help me with my application form? Yep, happy to look at it, because you just tweak it. And I submitted my application form, and I did the presentation where I put the email up. So I put the highlights. So the words were, yeah, you've taken all your ambition out, which is good. But the key terminal, we are a bit scared you're coming across as too confident. So I said, okay, so I need to strip out Elman to win this competition.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Strip out my ambition and strip out my confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll probably win the funds. And again, that's mind-boggling to me, and it would be mind-boggling to anyone else. Essentially, to win this competition, and you'll be able to see whether this happens, because I've applied again. But I've taken all my ambition out of the application form, and I'm going to hide how confident I am about my business and how confident I am at pitching. Is the only way to win it in the UK. It doesn't seem right, and perhaps that's something we should be looking at addressing for young entrepreneurs as time goes on.
Yeah, and the beauty is the position we find ourselves in, you, I, and any other business owner that's interested in inspiring the next generation or any generation, the position we find ourselves in, that we can carry that message forward. Of course, I believe that you need to be confident yet humble. You need to be able to recognize that you don't know everything and you can always learn something new, but you need to be confident enough to drive your ideas through. But there's a lot of learning in that last little piece around not being afraid to fail quickly, fail forward, learn from it and go again, be resilient. I think resilience is the biggest quality that someone that's got ambition needs. But that thinking big thing is so important, because good friend of mine, and a lot of people will know him, is Adam Cara. And Adam talks a lot, and I might be misquoting him here, so if he's listening or watching, I apologize in advance. But Adam talks about having the billionaire mindset. And actually, it's not necessarily about becoming a billionaire, although I know that that is an ambition of his. It's about recognizing that if you aim to create that level of wealth and you fail and you end up with £800 million in the bank, well, have you really failed?
Yeah.
Well, by your own definition, you have, but by aiming high, and this is the American piece, they know if you go for world domination, you might get one hemisphere. And if you get one hemisphere, that's a really good result for everyone. But if you aim for one country, you might get a town. And so it's a small result. So there's a lot of learning in there. And the encouragement is to think in the right way, of course, isn't it? So was there anything else the investors were particularly looking for? I mean, we've talked about culture and culture in your business and the value of make it happen. Tell us about other values, but was that an important thing for them? Did they talk about that much?
Yeah, so up until I went to America, culture and core values were something we looked at. And if you Google MD's core values, it's all integrity, teamwork, and essentially it seems like corporate bullshit, and everything has a variation in that. And we were lucky enough to get some funding from the government to look into developing our core values. And a big shout out to Yara Beckwith from Annabelle Beckwith from Yara Journeys, who helped us create all our core values, and they're in the other room. But up until that point, I was like, Annabelle, I need to get properties on, I need to market the business. I don't have time to do all this fluffy stuff, all this culture, and as long as I'll tell the staff what to do and they'll do it. And that was my approach. And she says, well, you need to develop these. And I said, Annabelle, I'm building a business. I don't have time to do this. And I dismissed her. And the first thing I did when I came back from Silicon Valley was walk past my office to the next building, go to hers, go to Annabelle and say, Annabelle, I'm really sorry because I was wrong. Culture is massively important. And it isn't all about sales and, building a business. There needs to be strong foundations there. So culture is a big thing for any business to succeed. The other thing that is really important, if you're taking a business to the next level, getting joint venture partners, strategic alliances, or investment of any level, is team. And they'll say, well, one co-founder, so they're more likely to invest in someone that has more than one co-founder. So if it's just me as a solo entrepreneur, it's seen as a little bit of a negative because it's just me. Whereas if you've got a co-founder, one's a marketing guy, one's a technical guy, one's a finance guy, and we're focusing primarily in the tech app software sector, but it stands, and I'm at a massive disadvantage when pitching because it's just me. So I had to go and build a team. So we now have a CMO, chief marketing officer, who would just be the sales and marketing guy, but again, Americans like to put that up. We've got CFO, Danielle's our amazing kind of finance manager, who's now a chief financial officer. We've got a chief operating officer. So structuring your business and presenting it in such a way that these are amazing people. So team's massively important to those guys. And one thing that's hard for us as business owners and entrepreneurs, Adam, is if someone perhaps invests in your business in a venture capitalist way, they don't really expect it to make money. If you think of Uber, well, that probably won't make money until driverless cars are accepted. It's probably impossible for it to make money while they're paying drivers. So I believe the whole principle is once driverless cars and they've wiped out all other taxi drivers and everything else, then they will make money. So it's long-term bets. So when looking at businesses, you don't particularly need to earn money and be profitable for 5 to 7 years, as long as there's that exit. So as long as you can get the cash flow going by various rounds of investment, then you can be in a position, whereas you and I, get some clients in, get some money, get a staff member, get some more money, do a bit of marketing. Maybe we work hard enough for 5 years and buy a competitor. Maybe we move into a new region. I suppose let's take the Silicon Valley approach, or the venture capitalist approach, is let's just dominate everything. We don't want competition. So let's take Uber again. Well, let's not make money. Let's supplement every fare so it's dead cheap, so that people use us, stop using taxis, and once they're all gone, everybody uses Uber, and perhaps we can make that a cash flow positive business. So scaling up, I think there's a book, Scaling Up, by Vern Harnish, I think his name is. It's kind of the Bible for scale up businesses. So the old way of me doing business with Homesure was get some money, spend it, get some money, but Pillow needs to go in a different direction to achieve the goals that we want. Essentially, we're kind of in competition for Airbnb. There will be other businesses that are the same as ours that will get investment money, that will take over the UK. That needs to be done right. But again, having a non-profitable business and then spending more money and getting more staff is kind of alien. So that's another mindset shift if you're taking.
Well, that's very interesting as well. And yeah, I mean, the tech examples, like even Twitter. I'm not even sure if Twitter makes any money now, but it's a hugely valuable business because of what it does and the platform that it creates.
Yeah.
Now, in a slightly different way, the reason that SMEs fail, and an SME can be a scale-up business, of course, even a micro business, a sub £1 million turnover business, can be a scale-up business. But the reason that they usually fail or never grow in the right way, of course, as to my understanding, is because they're underfunded.
Yeah.
And underfunded, where does the money come from? Well, there's not enough education, I don't believe, in the business world or in education system itself around access to finance. Well, the big corporate boys would call it leverage, of course, wouldn't they? But it's just access to finance and how you create a model that you're prepared to put money into. Because sometimes the VC boys don't want to really talk to you until you've got it to a certain level. You've got to get it to that level before you can go to them. So how can people access finance? You either have to put your hand in your own pocket, or you have to have a credible enough business plan that you can go to the bank. And I don't know what the lesson is really, but it's something around however much you think you need, you should probably double or triple or quadruple that number, because only when you've got enough oxygen in the tank can you really take off. But people need the confidence to do that, don't they?
One thing I would say, I mean, and again, it's not Scottish nationalism or patriotism here by any means. I was born in England, I'm actually English.
That's the biggest news. That's the biggest news today. Yeah, okay.
But Scotland does have, again, if somebody can point me a country that has a better ecosystem for support for businesses, startups, scale-ups, and even entrepreneurs, I think Scotland has 20, 30 times more support than England and Wales has. So we're lucky to be here. There's just lots of stuff. But there is support out there. The other thing, I'll finish on the funding topic, is again, this is my Scottish thing and being very tight. All these Silicon Valley companies that get millions thrown at them, and how can you not make money when you've got millions? And a nice example is Hostmaker. So Hostmaker was the same as Pillow, the same business model that launched a year before us, and they got £30 million worth of investment. So they literally had £30 million. And was it this year? This year, month before lockdown, they went bust. Now, they get sold to the other biggest competitor for less money than what Pillow's worth now. So they got £30 million of cash. I don't know what they did with it. Got ping pong tables and spent it on kombucha or whatever Silicon Valley nonsense they did, and let's pay somebody £1 million for a job. But they get £30 million worth of funding. Started a year before us. Didn't manage to make any money ever, and they lost it and got sold for £1.5 million. But they bummed through all that £30 million cash flow when we didn't have a penny. In fact, I still had the other business to support, and I came to the building next door here to an accelerator program with an idea and built a bigger business than they were left with. So getting money thrown at you isn't always a good thing. And I think that's one good thing about the British mentality, I think, is like, well, we'll get our money, we'll spend it, we'll be frugal, we'll be, you know, realistic with what we're doing. But a programmer here might be 35, 40,000 pounds. Over there, same level of programmers, $250,000, quarter of a million.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And I think that, you know, that makes a lot of sense, that if someone gave you 30 million pound and said go and spend it, you know, I've learned the value of money through running my own business.
Yeah.
You know, and I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
You know, it's run out a couple of times and I've had to go super lean. I've had loads of it at other times and spent the bloody lot.
Yeah.
So, you know, we find ourselves in a situation where, you know, look, I mean, touch wood, we're okay just for now. It won't survive forever, but that's because we had a great year last year, and I knew instinctively, don't just blow all the cash. Hey, I invested in some stuff, brought some new staff in, upgraded some systems, upgraded some IT, but you need a bit of a war chest. It's the balance of keeping a bit of a war chest, having oxygen in the tank if you find yourself underwater for too long, but also, when do I start spending the money? So you've got the new zero is like 4 or 5 months running expenses. Okay, anything above the new zero, you can start to invest, but you only learn that through experience. So really important stuff, I'm sure, especially in this current climate. So, I mean, actually, you know, one of the questions that I've got here to ask you is, you know, if you were starting out, let's say someone's starting out in business, what would be your advice to them from your own experiences?
So, again, this has definitely changed in the last year from all the experience and all the learning. We were over at Boston twice learning, and I got to study at the Babson, which has been voted the last 22, 23 years as the world's best entrepreneurial university, or college, as they call it in America. So that's changed my thinking as well. But again, starting off, it's very similar to the thinking big, but it's probably thinking at scale. Having been part of business groups, business accelerators, mentor groups and peer groups, there's people that would struggle, as I did, by the way, struggle along for a decade, and their business just isn't scalable. So the first thing is, do you have a business that will make you money? And I suppose a nice way to look at this is, I see we do a bit of mentorship with many businesses and young entrepreneurs, and everybody's fighting to get creative ways of not being run, to not pay VAT and keep under the VAT threshold. So the advice I say to the guys is, well, quit your business and get a job, because if you get a job, you get to keep most of your money. You need to pay tax. So if you've got a job, that if your business isn't VAT registered, then we know businesses, self-employed people think, oh, you've got a business, you make a lot of money, but we have a lot of overheads. So most businesses, if they're under the VAT threshold, let's say 80 grand, even if they're working at a 25% profit margin, then that's 20 grand. You'd always be better going and getting a minimum wage job with less stress. You can finish at 5. Life's pretty cool. You might not have that desire of, might still have that desire of achieving something, but businesses that are fighting hard to keep under the VAT threshold, well, you probably make more money and do less hours getting a basic job. So, and that's hard for a lot of businesses to take, because there'll be people watching this that offends and saying, you know, I've got a great business, but your business needs to survive you. It needs to be automated. It needs to be a legacy that you can pass on to your kids. So it needs to be a set of procedures and systems that other people can do. And that's hard as an entrepreneur and a founder to say, you don't need me, because we tend to think we're the most important people when actually we need to get out of the way of our own business. So the advice would be read all the resources about making a business that can scale up if you're in that industry that doesn't rely on the one person, and that you can not automate, because I'm not selling the internet dream of having an app that makes money. There's going to need to be amazing people here. But if you're serious about being in business, forget all this staying under the VAT threshold, not paying tax, and various ways of saving money. Just think about a scalable business that is going to be there, that's going to fund your retirement, that you can pass on to your kids, and structure it in such a way that your kids can get shares in it. They can inherit their shares, so that they don't need to pay massive inheritance tax and all these things associated with the personal wealth that you could be a multi-millionaire with loads of properties. But essentially, if that's not structured within a business and it's subject to inheritance tax, then you're going to be given capital gains tax away at 28%, inheritance tax at 40%. And I've mentored people that had a £1.8 million property they were going to leave to their kids, investment property, but it turned out their two kids out of that would get 30 grand each. So they had a £1.8 million investment property in London, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, pay all the mortgage off, and they were leaving their kids 30 grand each. And a £1.8 million assets, amazing. But if it was in a business that was structured right and the kids had the shares, then they would pay zero in that, because they would just, again, not giving tax advice. But most people have kids. Most people don't want to work to die. Just their dreams disappear. So structuring businesses correctly that are scalable, that your kids, family ones, someone else can inherit. And I'm not big on legacy as such because I don't have kids, but most people are, and I think that's important to people.
No, that makes a huge amount of sense, and I think that is about also, it's knowing the rules of the game, isn't it? If you're entering business and you might be ill-advised to view it as a game. Everything's a game at the end of the day, and we all want to win. But you've got to know the rules of the game. And if you're trying to, if you're trying to change the rules that are set in place, like, oh, well, if I do this, I can avoid being at the VAT threshold, which gives me a competitive advantage. Well, you haven't understood the rules of the game is the key, isn't it? So you need to know what you're in. And actually, if anyone were to be listening to this wondering what the hell we're talking about, the best thing to do is to go and get some advice. There's so many people out there, I'm sure you and me included, that if someone picked up the phone and went, I'm thinking about doing this, if I don't know the answer, I'll point them in another direction. There's so many people that are willing to help. But knowing what you want at the outset is of course so important, definitely.
Especially now, because you will get free advice from people that are thinking, I can't get clients. And I suppose the smart people, the nice people and the smart people in this lockdown will be like, hey, I'll just give free advice out because I'm at home doing nothing. And if they can give value away for free, give content away for free like you're doing with these podcasts, once you come out of lockdown, they'll get that back tenfold. So people will be 100% happy to give tax advice, business
HR advice, business
advice,
that's it. Oh, there is, and my experience of that actually is that if you ask for help, and people in the UK are so afraid to ask for help because they think it's a sign of weakness. I don't know this and I'm going to look stupid if I ask the question. That's something that everyone needs to get rid of straight away. In my experience, if you ask for help, you will find a tidal wave of response of people that are delighted to support and advise. So you're dead right. Especially now, but in general as well, I'm sure. And it's good to know that community is out there. Business people and people generally are delighted to be able to help other people get on. The trouble is people are afraid to ask. Look, I know you're a big, and I'm just looking at the time. I know we had an interlude. This is the first one where I'll be able to put an advertising break in the middle. But coming to the last couple of questions, I know you're a big reader, studier, and I know that you're passionate about learning about business and personal development. So 2 questions there. What are you reading or studying at the moment? And secondly, what would be your all-time number 1 recommendation must read for someone?
So what am I reading at the moment? Well, I made a rule probably 20, 19, when I was 19, 20 years ago, never to read newspapers, listen to news, consume mainstream media, etc. So even during all this, the whole thing doesn't affect me mentally, because the team tell me what I need to know, or I'll consume certain content to get it bullet pointed, dun dun dun. But so that left me a lot of time to consume a lot of content. So what am I reading at the moment? Well, it changes. So I love Audible, the app. So I set myself definitely one audiobook a week. The thing I love about books, physical books like the ones you've got behind you, or Audible books, is essentially somebody that has so it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter what the favourite book is, but the principle of content in books is this for me. Someone is an expert on a topic and they write a book on it that might be their life's work, and it took them their whole life or 10 years to get the knowledge for that, and they put it in a book, and you can learn that in a week. You can get their whole life's knowledge in a week. They've done all the work for you, and if you can do that once a week, then you get 52 books a year, and you're consuming 52 people's life's work in a year. And that principle to me is much more important than one book, because I read so many, and I listen to loads twice. So my thing's Audible. The reason I like Audible, because if you're reading a book, you're doing one thing. You need to focus. If you're like me, I need to focus on things because I'm dyslexic and my brain doesn't work. But in the car, not so much now, but in the car, I've got half an hour there, half an hour back. Never listen to the news, always listen to an audiobook, which means I get an hour every day listening. When I'm doing anything, when I'm working out, when I'm going for a run, that's an hour's listening. So a principle around my book is doubling up. Listen to audiobooks while you're doing something else, doing the dishes, relaxing, cutting the grass, whatever. So I don't think there is a single book that has made a difference, because there's so many. And I've been asked, I've thought of that question every month, and it changes every month. So what I was going to do was, and I'll send it to you, you can release it to these people, is give the list. I think I listened to or read 60 books or 60 audiobooks in 2019. So I was going to list them all and try and put them in some form of order.
That would be cool. And you're right, the principle is the important thing. And when you start thinking about using your time, and I know that you're very good at this, in a more useful way for yourself. So you've just said there, haven't you, half an hour to work, half an hour back, and a 1 hour run, or you probably do a 40 to 1 hour 30 workout of some kind most days. You've just bought yourself, let's say, 2 hours a day of consuming the right content. So you can read easily a book and a half, listen to every week. The thing I do with audio, and I love Audible as well, is if the book really resonates with me, I buy the physical copy. So I can scribble in it or put it on a shelf and refer back to it, or even sometimes give it away. Great. So I love that. Okay. So there's a principle there. But do share that list with me. I'll make sure it's distributed in the notes. And then the last question I've got is one that I'm hoping to end most of these webinar podcasts with, and it's the time machine question. So if you had a time machine and you could go back in time to any point actually, it might be to meet someone from hundreds of years ago, but really what I'd like to know actually is, if you could go back to any point in your own timeline, where would you find yourself, at what age, and what would you tell yourself or change?
Yes. So, well, that's a tough one. So I always thought the answer, so I've always had an answer, and I'm just going to change it today. I'll tell you my previous answer was definitely at 15. It was a low point for me. I didn't want to wake up in the morning. I just get angry and frustrated as a young teenager because I woke up and life was so bad. So I would always go back, but I've just realised the advice I would give sitting here today, I would go back in time and say, your 4 impossible goals, they're actually the easy goals, because where I come from, you've set another 4 impossible goals, which are much harder to achieve, and you know what, you're going to achieve them. So I always said 15, knowing what I know now, I would go back and maybe that would make a difference. But the actual answer I'm going to give from now on is, if I had a time machine and could go back to any period in time, I would go back to this day and time. And rather than tell my 15-year-old self what I've achieved now, I would wait and use my time machine in another 20 years' time, and I would tell myself now, you're going to come out of coronavirus stronger, which you are. The advice is the advice I've already taken. Make sure you're physically stronger, make sure you're mentally stronger, make sure your business is in a better position, make sure you have more connections, you've done all the wee admin things. So rather than telling, because I'm already here, so I don't really need to go back to my 15th-year-old self. I've got here. But I think the biggest thing would be to leave that time machine in a box, 20 years and come back today. In fact, that's why it cut off, because I come back.
You were just journeying back in time. Yeah, I think you're right.
Scott, it's all going to be all right. You're going to achieve your dreams, and any fear, uncertainty, and doubt you have are all just made up in your brain. So halfway through this podcast is when I'd come back in my time machine.
Yes. Is that what happened in the 5 minutes? Were you chatting to your future self?
Yes.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Cool. That's a very cool answer. Look, I think we're about on time, even accounting for our advertising break. I don't know if there's anything you want to add before I wrap up.
No, again, I've got plenty of time. So, with a wee break, but anything, again, I don't need to cut off for an hour. So,
how can people contact you, Scott, if they want to get in touch or find out more?
So, nice and simple, Scott Weir, W-E-I-R. They can search me on social media. So I think it's Scott Weir 1000 on Facebook, Instagram, Scott Weir Official. Check me on LinkedIn. So, I'm assuming I'd come up reasonably high in Google, but if I don't and people come up higher than me, follow them, because they're clearly more interested. So just Google Scott Weir and follow the top one. If it happens to be, which it won't be, let me know if they've got any good
advice. Yeah. What I'll do is, in any notes I distribute with this, I'll put those social media accounts attached into it. And hey, mate, let's not leave it quite so long next time. I'm glad we're had this opportunity to chat today. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, and you and I used to do kind of mentoring together and be in a mastermind group like every 6 weeks for a good few years. So we saw each other a lot, and that was probably 3-4 years ago now.
Yeah, but just to round up, the value in investing time with someone, getting to know them and getting a deeper connection is and we know this to be true. Look, doesn't need to be weeks, doesn't need to be months, years can pass. But when you've actually had that connection with someone, it's very rare that at their essence, someone changes to a point where you can't pick up where you left off. Yeah. So, and we're lucky that we've had that time. Having said that, I've threatened a few times to come up to Scotland and see you. I will make sure that I put that in the diary when lockdown has ended.
Totally.
And I look forward to a day or night out in Ayrshire or Glasgow, whichever you choose.
Do Glasgow, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, mate. Well, look, thank you again for your input and time, making yourself available. Good luck in lockdown. Good luck in Pillow HQ. I've got no doubt that you'll make everything happen and bring it all back. And if I can help you in any way, mate, just give me a shout. But I'll see you again very soon. Yeah.
For watching. See you later, and connect. Feel free, and let's do some partnerships, joint ventures together.
Exactly. Take care, mate.
Guys, bye.
All the best. See you guys. Bye.